Welcome to this tutorial to learn a little bit more about the maintenance needed to fill slow days calculator in the labor pricing for a profit software. Maintenance agreements are literally the foundation stone for profitable growth for years to come. If we're not building a successful maintenance agreement department today, we will have problems coming down the road. Manufacturers continue to change warranties on products. Products themselves continue to change. And in the long run, the actual revenue that we wind up bringing into our service department based on demand service continues to shrink. As a result, we need to have a maintenance agreement program in place to fill the slow time that naturally takes place in our service department between the heavy seasons, and to generate revenue that's no longer there due to the longer product warranties and changes made by manufacturers that start eating away at the profits of our service department. Your business is cyclical. You've got seasons that are heavier. In the HVAC business, for example, that would be the summer and the winter. Spring and fall are lousy. Irrigation industry, same thing. Fall's going to be very busy. Spring is going to be very busy. But winter and summer may tend to tail off a bit. Whatever your company is, you've got those slow times in your service department. And a maintenance agreement program can fill in those slow times. But how many maintenance agreements do you really need to fill in the slow times in your company? The maintenance contracts needed to fill slow days calculator will help you determine exactly what this goal should be for your company. Let's take a look at it. We're first going to make sure that we're in the calculators section of the left-hand toolbar by clicking on calculators. Then we'll click on the maintenance contracts needed to fill slow days calculator icon on the bottom. When we do this, the maintenance contracts needed to fill slow days calculator will open up, and there's just a couple of simple questions that we need to answer. First, how many slow days per year do you have per technician? Now, typically, that's going to be about 90 days that you need to fill in. Again, there's going to be about a month and a half in spring, month and a half in fall, or a month and a half between each of those periods within your company. But you can determine how many slow days there are. Typically, it'll be around 90. Next, the equivalent number of service techs that you have. If you have 2 full-time service techs, obviously this would be 2. If you've got 2.5 service techs, that's the number that we're going to put in here. So in our particular case, we have 2 service techs. We'll enter those in. Next, the hours paid per day. What is your typical work day? If your typical service techs are working an 8-hour day, this of course is going to be 8 hours. The next box is the average percentage of time the typical tech bills the customer in a day. Now, the typical service technician across the country is about 50% billable. 50% of their time is non-billable. So in that particular case, we'll enter 50% here. Now, your techs may be a little higher, maybe a little bit lower than this. But again, we're looking for the typical amount of time that we are going to bill the customer each day. The last box here is the total annual on-the-job hours required to perform a maintenance agreement. In other words, your typical maintenance agreement, how much time do you spend on the job each year? If you're there once a year and you're going to spend 2 hours during that visit, then this is going to be 2 hours. If you're there twice a year, but it's going to be an hour for the cooling season, hour for the heating season, that would be 2 hours as well. So we're going to enter in 2 hours. Now, as soon as we do that, the software can then tell you roughly how many maintenance agreements you need within your company. So in my particular case here, I've got 90 slow days per year. I've got 2 technicians. They're paid 8 hours a day, and their 50% of their time is billable. We're going to make 2 hours each year, an hour in spring, hour in fall. And so as a result, I'm going to need roughly 360 maintenance agreements in my inventory in order to fill those 90 days for my 2 technicians. That's my new goal. That's what I'm shooting for. So now put together a maintenance agreement program that can help you sell maintenance agreements to hit this goal. As you add more technicians, the number of maintenance agreements required is going to increase as well. So constantly be looking at that number. How many agreements do you have in your inventory, and how are you managing them? This concludes this particular tutorial. We encourage you to watch the balance of the tutorials available to you here to help you learn more about the labor pricing for profit software. Thank you.